Hey, good evening, everybody. This is the City of Camilla Council meeting for Monday, February 8th, 2021. And at this time, Cheryl, can you please call the roll, please?
Councilman Campbell,
Here.
Councilwoman Willingham,
Present.
Councilman Morgan,
Here.
Councilman Tweedy,
Here.
Councilman Pollard,
Here.
and Councilman Palmer.
Here.
All right, thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Council. At this time, we'll have our opening prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help as we conduct the business of the city. We pray for guidance in the matters at hand and ask you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our work. Help us to work together and encourage each other to excellence. We ask that we would challenge each other to reach higher and farther to be the best that we can be. We ask this in the name of Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, at this time, we will have the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Council, and thank you, Cheryl. At this time, is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
This Councilman Campbell, I'll approve it.
Second, all right.
Councilman Palmer.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, again, Council, every vote tonight will be a roll call vote. Councilman Campbell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham.
Yes.
Councilman Morgan.
Yes.
Councilman Twitty. Councilman Twitty.
I had muted myself. Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Pollard.
Yes.
And Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the January 11th, 2021 council meeting?
Willingham, I move that we approve the minutes from January 11, 2021 council meeting.
Woody will second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Thank you. All right. So at this time, we'll vote. Councilman Campbell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham.
Yes.
Councilman Morgan.
Yes.
Councilman Twitty.
Yes.
Councilman Pollard.
Yes.
And Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you, Council. All right. So there is no speaker appearance for non-agenda items or the agenda items. So we'll go straight into the administrative committee report. Councilman Pollard.
Thank you, Mayor. And Council, tonight's administrative report, February 8, 2021, goes as follows. The Council reviewed a proclamation prepared by Mayor Owens recognizing the month of February as Black History Month. After discussing at the February 1st committee meeting, the proclamation was converted to a resolution for Council participation to support the significance of proclaiming February as Black History Month in Camilla. All citizens are urged to recognize, honor, and celebrate the significant roles and influence African Americans have made and continue to make in shaping our country, diverse history, and remarkable culture. The Administrative Committee recommends approval of the resolution number 2021-02-8-4, recognizing February 2021 as Black History Month in Camilla, and authorize the mayor to sign. This is in a form of a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, council, at this time, if you don't mind, I would like to read this resolution into the record. Resolution. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many diverse achievements and contributions made by African Americans to our economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas Black History Month grew out of establishment of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson in 1926. And whereas the 2021 national theme for Black History Month observance is Black family, representation, identity, and diversity. And whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our attention to the continued need to battle racism and build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals. And whereas the city of Camilla continues to develop a community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected, recognized for their contributions and potential contributions to our community, region, state, country, and the world. And whereas all citizens are encouraged to celebrate our diverse heritage and culture and continue our efforts to create a world that is more just, peaceful, and prosperous for all. And whereas the city of Camilla is proud to honor the history and contributions of African Americans in our community through our state and our nation. Now, therefore, the mayor and city council, in recognition of African Americans, past and present, in our community, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2021 as Black History Month in Camilla, Georgia, and urge all citizens to recognize, honor, and celebrate the significant role and influence African Americans have made and continue to make in shaping our country's diverse history and remarkable culture. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Camilla, Georgia, to be affixed this 8th day of February in the year of our Lord, 2021, Kevin M. Owens, Mayor. Thank you very much, Council. So at this time, as you recall, we have a motion and second to approve this resolution. Is there any more discussion? All right. At this time, we'll vote. Councilman Campbell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham,
Yes.
Councilman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Twitty,
Yes.
Councilman Pollard.
Gladly, I do.
Okay. And Councilman Palmer. And Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Councilman Paul.
Thank you, Mayor Owens.
Yes, sir.
D, and Administrative Committee report continues to be. Ms. Cripper, 123 LLC, DBA Bob Food Mart, and located at 122 North Corner Street, has applied for all-premises beer and wine alcohol license. Patel is the new manager for the business. Required background checks are completed, and Police Chief Hendricks approved the license application request. The Administrative Committee recommends approval of the all-premises beer and all-premises wine license application, and Patel as the new manager of Bob's Food Mart, located at 122 North Harney Street. This is in a form of a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion that's been properly second. Is there any discussion? All right, at this time, we'll vote. Councilman Campbell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham,
Yes.
Councilman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Twitty,
Yes.
Councilman Pollard,
Yes.
and Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
C, the city applied for very competitive Georgia Environmental Financial Authorized GE, better known as GFA, loan last year and was awarded 3 loans for the infrastructure improvement. The council reviewed and discussed the following loans award. Resolution number 2021-02-8-1, loan number CW20200003, loan amount of $1.9 million provided for improvements at the wastewater treatment plant for renovation and upgrades to lift station. $950,000 of the loan amount is in the form of a grant, and the remaining $950,000 is a 20-year term note with the interest rate of 0.82%. Resolution number 2021-02-8-2, loan number CWDRA 2007, loan amount of $200,000 provides for installation of lift station, bypass pumps, and supervisory control and data acquisitions. CADA 40,000 of the loan amount is in the form of a grant, and the remaining $160,000 is a 20-year term note with a 0 interest. Resolution number 2021-02-8-3, loan number DWDRA 20010, loan amount of $1.4 million, provided for replacement and repair of 2 wells, water main replacement, and control value replacement to upgrade the city's critical water infrastructure. $700,000 of the loan amount is in the form of a grant, and the remaining $700,000 is a 20-year term note with 0 interest. The grant proportion of the loan represents $2 million, and savings and critical infrastructure projects are $3.5 million. The administrative committee recommends adoption of the 3 resolutions, authorize the mayor to sign the resolution, promissory note, and loan documents, and acknowledgement that the city agrees to the terms of the loan contained in the GFO document. This is in the form of a motion.
Councilman Campbell, second.
All right, thank you, council. We have a motion that's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, at this time, we'll vote. Councilman Campbell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham,
Yes.
Councilman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Twitty,
Yes.
Councilman Pollard,
Yes.
and Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Motion carries.
Thank you. Finally, for the administrative report, we have the council reviewed and discussed a city manager performance evaluation form prepared by the city manager Sites and Mayor Owens and offered for consideration and approval. The form will be used annually in November to review the city manager's performance. The administrative committee recommends approval of the form as presented and used as the official city manager performance evaluation form. This is in a form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, at this time, we'll vote. And before we vote, council, can you check your mic and just, if you're not speaking, to mute?
Me?
No, just if you're not speaking, just to mute. Perfect. Okay. So again, council, at this time, we have a motion that's been properly seconded to approve the city manager performance evaluation. At this time, we will vote. Councilman Campbell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham,
Yes.
Councilman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Twitty,
Yes.
Councilman Pollard,
Yes.
and Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, council. Motion carries. All right.
This not, Councilman Paul, this not conclude the administrative report. for February
Perfect. Thank
8, 2021. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. All right. So at this time, we'll move on to the Public Works Committee report. Councilman Morgan.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody that may be watching, and good evening to the council.
Sure.
The council reviewed bids for a right-of-way exterior landscape maintenance contract that provides lawn maintenance services on US Highway 19 and Newton Road right-of-ways and weekly litter pickup. The right-of-ways are scheduled for mowing twice per month from March to October and once per month from November to February. 2 bids were received with Allen Turf Landscape Equipment. This was identified as a low bidder with a bid amount of $82,500. The Public Works Committee recommends acceptance of the low bid offer from Allen Turf Landscape Equipment in the amount of $82,500 and authorizes the city manager to sign contract documents with the commencement date of March the 1st, 2021 and ending February 28th, 2022. The city manager was requested to evaluate grass retardant spraying as an alternative to the total number of mowings in the contract, and we'll report his findings prior to the vote.
Okay.
So I guess right here, Steve, do you mind speaking on a little bit of that for us?
Well, what we'll do, Councilman Morgan, I appreciate that. We'll go ahead and do the motion, and during the
Okay.
discussion period, we'll have Steve chime in.
Gotcha. So this is in the form of a motion.
Second.
All right. We have a motion that's been properly second. Is there any discussion? And at this time, Steve, you want to just walk us through your findings?
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Yes, sir.
Assume you can hear me okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So at the request of council, the staff got some comparative pricing on seed retardant. And what we did was to take the bids as proposed. And as Councilman Morgan just explained, the bid calls for 20 mowings per calendar year. That's 1 mowing per month in the winter months and 2 mowings per month in the summer months. On the off weeks, we have, which there are 32 weeks with no mowing, there is litter pickup included in the mowing. What we did was we assumed that with proper retardant, we could eliminate 1 mowing per month. So we compared removing, based on the bid prices, 1 mowing per month, but we also included an additional litter pickup so that we would be covered for all 52 weeks. The savings that would be produced is about $9,000 when you consider that it's about $20,000 based on the bid prices for the applications for a retardant. So right now, the council is considering awarding an annual contract for $82,500. Staff estimates that we could reduce that contract to $53,400, but add in $20,000 for retardant. That's a difference of $9,000. And after that review and consulting with the utilities director and public works, it's my recommendation that we stick with the original bid of $82,500 and monitor the progress of the contract for this first year. This is a 1-year contract. We're not committed with this contract. We're not committing further than February the 28th. So I stand by the recommendation of awarding this contract after proper review.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Are there any questions for Steve or any other discussion related to this?
Steve, Councilman Palmer, question. How often are they supposed to mow every 2 weeks? How often do they pick up the debris?
So the contract requires them to pick up the debris immediately prior to the mowing, and that would be in the summertime every other week. On the off week, when they're not mowing, they're still picking up the debris on a weekly basis. So they're picking up a total of 52 weeks a year, but 20 of those are in conjunction with a mowing.
Well, my problem with this is I don't have a problem with that. The problem is if we're going to pay money to pick up debris, we need to enforce our litter ordinance that so that the police can cite people who are littering and causing us to have to pay these people to pick it up. I think we need to follow through with this to do our job properly.
Yeah, I've had that same conversation with the chief of police and with Mayor Owen and agree that we really do need to step up the litter patrol because it indeed has a cost on the community for having to pick it up.
Absolutely.
So the city will not be picking up only as needed. Is that correct?
Yeah, currently we are picking up twice a week. And so for us to cut back to once a week with this contract only, we would just have to make sure that if the litter needs to be picked up on a weekly basis, then we would have to do that internally. The contract doesn't allow for that.
Well, I was out 19 this morning and there were 2 city trucks and either 2 or 4 employees picking up litter, and I didn't hardly see much litter, but I think it should be as needed.
With the contract, we would be guaranteed 1 pickup per week. The additional pickup would be on the city's expense. So we certainly
Right.
have the
Okay.
flexibility to go out and pick up as we need to.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Palmer. That was some great info and great input, actually. I appreciate that. And Steve, just to clarify, we're going to be supplementing that additional day of pickup. So there is one scheduled pickup day for the city with this contract. And if there's something that goes, like we had a couple of weeks ago where a truck just basically sent stuff everywhere, we also have the capability, if we have to go out as needed. Is that right?
Yeah, we do have the capability to go out and pick up on an as-needed basis. And I agree with the thinking that we need to step up patrol of the litter because it's causing us to have to take our forces that could be working inside the city and patrolling 19 where it is a little more dangerous than in town.
Absolutely. And I like your idea, Steve, is this contract is for a year. So over the next 12 months or so, we'll have an opportunity to evaluate how well this is going.
Yes, we will. That
All
will
right.
be evaluating the performance on a monthly basis.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Morgan, I had a quick question
Yes,
in
sir.
regard to, I guess, enforcing the litter ordinance more. What does that look like in action?
It looks like patrol officers paying as much attention to litter coming out of a vehicle as it does speed.
Okay.
So it is active enforcement. It's the law enforcement officers being aware and paying attention that the city of Camilla is serious about no littering.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions or discussion? All right, councilors, as a reminder, we have a motion and a second to approve Allen Turf Landscape for an amount of $82,500 for a contract that starts March 1st, 2021 and ends February 28th, 2022. At this time, we'll go ahead and take the vote. Councilman Campbell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham,
Yes.
Councilman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Twitty,
Yes.
Councilman Pollard,
Yes.
and Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Councilman Morgan.
Thank you. Item B, the council reviewed bids to furnish and install an airport hangar at the Camilla Mitchell County Airport. 2 bids were received with Young's Metal Building of Hartsville, Georgia, and identified as a low bidder with a bid amount of $140,000. On November 9th, 2020, certain members of the council approved construction of the hangar in an amount not to exceed $150,000. The contract does not include electrical, plumbing, main door, and a hydraulic door, which will be provided at the tenant's expense. Members of the Public Works Committee recommend acceptance of the low bid from Young's Metal Building of Hartsville in the amount of $140,000 to construct the hangar, and authorizes the city manager to sign contract-related documents.
All right. So at this time, is there a motion to approve Young's Metal Buildings of Hartsville, Georgia, for the amount of $140,000 to install an airport hangar at the Camilla Mitchell County Airport?
Councilman Campbell, I make the motion.
Okay.
Councilman Palmer, second.
All right. We have a motion that's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have something. This is Councilman Morgan.
Yes, sir.
The current contract that we have, does this include a statement saying that the contract, we're not providing funds or paying for electrical, plumbing, main door, and the hydraulic, all the extra expenses? Is this defined clearly in this contract that we currently have?
Yes, the contract that will be signed delineates that the electrical and the plumbing and then the main door and the hydraulic door is one and the same, but it's a hydraulic door. It's for the large aircraft to be able to go in and out of the hangar. Those items are going to be furnished by the tenant, and it is clear that those items are not in the contract for $140,000.
And the contract that we all received, it spelled that out clearly, that the tenant will be responsible for those items?
It is. I mean, what you received is the bid for $140,000. And when you look at the contract documents, those items were not included in the bid. So it is very clear that Young's Metal Buildings will be furnishing a completed building that does not include the additional electrical, plumbing, and main door.
Okay. Those are all my comments.
Yeah, I think I want to piggyback just a little bit off of Councilman Morgan's question. And I think the other question is the lease agreement that the council authorized me to sign back in November. That lease agreement, and I think this may be getting to what Councilman Morgan is speaking of. There's nothing in that lease agreement that says that the tenant is responsible for electrical, plumbing, the main door, and hydraulic door. Actually, the lease from November has the city doing all of that. So, and anything over $150,000 per the lease, the tenant was to pay us back everything over $150,000 before they took possession of the building. So as it stands right now, council, from the lease documents that I was authorized to sign back in November. And correct me if I'm wrong, Councilman Morgan, I won't put words in your mouth, but that's, I don't know if you're talking about the contract or the lease, but I went ahead and picked up where the lease had the information, the actual documents that were signed. So, Council, it's important for you to know that the lease that you authorized me to sign in November is different from what's here in the motion. That the final construction was to be completed by us, and the tenant was going to reimburse us for anything over 150. So right now, the only thing that the people of Camilla is going to get for the $140,000, as Steve mentioned, is the building with no doors and no electricity. And as I mentioned to Steve, I wasn't sure if that was the understanding back in November, that that's all the people were going to get, was just the building without all the other stuff in it, and us getting reimbursed for everything over 150. So I just think that's an important point to make, that right now there is no document that I'm aware of, and Flynn, you can help me out on this too, that I'm aware of that requires the tenant to put the electrical, plumbing, main door in. That those documents were not created, that I'm aware of. Flynn, you have any thoughts on that, or Steve?
The only thing is that the $140,000 will be covered in the 10 years of the lease agreement, and that's all the city is obligated to pay. The building can be considered complete without those three items, and the tenant will definitely put in the electrical, definitely put in the plumbing, and definitely put in a $25,000 door that the city will own. So the way that I see this, irregardless, the city commits to $140,000 and gets about $185,000 building that it will own.
No, and Steve, I appreciate that. I guess the only point that I'm making is that I want the council to understand that the only thing that you're paying for tonight is the building, and there is no guarantee. I know that the term definitely was used, but there is no, that I'm aware of anyway, that there is no document or instrument that says the tenant has to do it. The tenant apparently has said they're going to do it, but I just want the city, I just want the council to understand that that's not in writing anywhere.
Yeah, the only thing that we have in writing is that anything that the tenant puts in the building has to have prior council approval, or actually it's city approval before they put it in. And I'm certain that the city would approve the tenant adding the $25,000 hydraulic door, the electrical, and the plumbing to make the building more valuable.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that at all. Again, I just wanted for the record to be clear, and for the public and for the council. The only thing that the council is approving $140,000 for tonight is a building with no doors, no electrical, no plumbing, and those other amenities. That's the only point.
Yeah, and I believe that's true.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Steve, you just mentioned that the council do have in writing the approval for anything that the tenant may put inside of the building must be approved by council.
Yeah, I misspoke. By the city.
By the city.
Yes.
Meaning, as that would be you as the administrator of the city.
Yeah, that is the job that I would take unless the council directs me otherwise. If the council wants that approval, then the council could take a vote. Short of the council taking action, then I would take on that role.
Okay, because sure we don't have that in writing at the council. Nothing in writing says that we will approve of this. that I know of from city or the council. So we do need to get that clear and clarify that tonight, whether we're going to put that solely upon your discretion, the council, to approve anything that the tenant put inside of this building.
Yeah, and so
Okay.
that could easily be amended if that's the way you would like to handle it tonight. The motion could be amended to address that if you wanted to handle it that way.
I think we do need to amend the motion, amend the items to be considered to include those things.
Okay. So Flynn, acting as our parliamentarian this evening, the way that I hear Councilman Pollard's point. So Councilman Pollard, you're making a motion to amend or to substitute the motion that's in hand right now?
That's correct.
There's already a motion on the floor and he's just making a motion to amend it. Why don't we just make it a new motion with this, which was identical to the original motion, but with this amendment. That way it can be voted on and have to vote twice.
I
Okay,
concur
so-
with you.
Okay, so
This is Councilman Campbell. I made the motion, and I'd rather leave it like I made the motion and it was seconded, and then we'll vote again to see if we want to add this other to it. No, I'd rather vote twice.
Well, right, and I agree with you, Councilman Campbell. So what we'll do, the way that it works is that we will vote on the amendment first, and then come back to the original motion, your original motion. So it's still going to be in place, Councilman Campbell. So, but I agree with you. We're going to come back for a second one for the original motion. So at this time, Councilman Pollard, what is your motion?
That we amend the motion to include, to keep it as it is, but to include the changes that was just discussed. As far as to tend it, to authorize the city manager or council to approve any items that may be added by the tenant to the owned building by the city.
Okay. So are you saying that to give the city manager that authority?
To have that discussion, to have the city manager authority in the hands of the city council or the city manager.
I'm not sure I understand. So it's either, if I'm hearing you correctly, and I get the point that you're making, that we're either going to give the city manager the authority to approve the changes, or the changes have to come through the council.
Well, let me go ahead and make the amendment that we give that authority to the city manager, with the city manager updating us on any changes that we made by the tenant.
I got you. Okay. All right. So right now, council, we have a motion to amend the current motion to keep everything the same, but to give the city manager the authority to make to give approval to the tenant to make changes to the building, but the city manager will have to let the council know on a regular basis. Is that right, Councilman?
Indeed. Update us on anything that may be added, yes.
Okay. So we have a motion?
Well, let me make sure on this, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So, the amendment we're talking about means that they're going to put in doors, electrical, and plumbing, but it has to be approved by the city manager, and he will keep us updated on it.
That's correct.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilman Pollard's point was that he wasn't sure that was spelled out in the previous documents, and just wanted to make sure we had that on the record.
very much so. Just make sure that it's documented, which Steve just said himself, but we just want to make sure that it's documented. It's just not word of mouth, but it's documented as well.
Okay. So again, council, we have a motion on the floor to amend the current motion to keep everything the same, except we're going to add the city manager has the authority to approve any changes the tenant makes to the hangar, but the city manager will inform or keep the council informed of those changes. But the city manager has the authority to make the change, but he would keep us informed. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. At this time, is there any other discussion? All right, at this time, we'll vote. Councilman Campbell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham,
Yes.
Councilman Morgan,
No.
Councilman Twitty,
Yes.
Councilman Pollard,
No.
and Councilman Palmer. Councilman Palmer,
Yes. Got it on mute.
that's all right. All right. 1 second here. The motion carries. All right. Thank you, council.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Campbell. But I understand that Councilman Morgan made the motion and then didn't vote for it.
It was Councilman Pollard.
I mean, Councilman Pollard made the motion and didn't vote for it.
That is correct.
I just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
Yes.
And I can clarify it myself. Yeah, I made the motion, but however, I don't agree with the hangar situation. That's neither here nor there, but that's why I say no.
Okay. All right. Thank you, council. All right. Councilman Morgan.
Gotcha.
Wait a minute. Don't we have to vote on?
We're supposed to be voting twice, right?
No, yes, sir. So the amendment.
We got to vote on the original.
No, sir. So the amendment supersedes the original motion. And because the second motion passed, that nullifies, if you will, the original motion. So when there's an amendment or a substitute, we vote in reverse order.
I think you got to vote on his, that's what I didn't realize at the start that Councilman Campbell didn't want to amend his motion, but I think he's made a motion and it's either got to be tabled or you have to have an up or down vote on that. And then if that passes, it passes. And then it looks like you got two competing motions, but the way that I guess I could be wrong, but the way I understand it is if he's got a motion on table and somebody else wants to vote, makes a proposal to amend it, he doesn't agree to amend it, then it's got to be voted on up or down first before a new motion can be voted on.
I think you do have it wrong.
Yeah, I think the substitute motion or the amendment.
Okay.
Yeah. So when that happens, if the amendment or the substitute motion fails, then we go back to the original motion. But if
So when we voted for the amendment, we voted for the $140,000, the original, what was presented, what I motion made, the motion I made approved it, and the amendment all at the same time, but the motion I made is accepted. What I'm trying to be clear, is that clear?
No, Councilman Pollard's amendment superseded your motion, and we voted on that. And because
all he did was making a motion to,
It was the same thing.
right.
Exactly. It's the same thing. We just added the amendment to include the other things that city manager will have solely discretion on those things there and will update the city council on those things. It passed.
Okay.
42. So it supersedes your motion. We don't have to go back to the first original motion because we already done voted and passed on the second motion, the amended motion. So we don't have to go back to the original. That's done.
Okay. I just want to be
Just
clear.
had the same example last month when we was going through this with the city attorney Coleman.
That's right.
Okay.
All right. So, Glenn, you got anything else before we move forward?
No, that's fine.
I think I was just going to say, I think we're back to the agenda at hand.
Okay. All right. All right, Councilman Morgan.
So, item C, the council discussed construction of a picnic pavilion at Toombs Park. City manager Sykes stated bids were due on Wednesday and asked council to approve adding the item to the agenda to award the bid for the pavilion contingent upon a successful bid opening. The city manager will present a recommendation for council consideration.
All right. So Steve, you want to go ahead and
Yes, I'm ready.
go ahead, sir.
All right. In your packet, there is a discussion paper that was included. The discussion paper laid out the bids, the two bids that were open. But let me give a little bit of background on the budget versus the proposed bids. So,
hey, Steve, excuse
yes.
me, my apologies. I see here on the list the motion during the discussion period. Hold on one second. So the details of the Toombs Park information is not included in the write-up here on the report. So I just want to make sure that
it's in the attached discussion paper for everyone to follow along.
Gotcha. All right. So after Steve is done with this information, Councilman Morgan, if you or any other council member wants to make a motion on the information that Steve provides, then we'll go ahead and go from there. All right. Go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry.
Yes. Thank you. Whenever the pavilion was first planned, the assumption was that it would be 1,000 square feet, and we used $40 per square foot for the estimate. So that's where the $40,000 original estimate came from. After authorization to proceed with the design, a pavilion was designed, and it was designed to match the splash park concept. The final design was a pavilion that was 1,200 square feet with manufactured stone, pre-engineered trusses, and architectural shingles, again to match the splash park concept. The estimate for the initial design was $66,000, and that was based off of a 1,200 square foot pavilion, estimating $55 per square foot. I also attached some information for you to review behind the discussion paper, and that information discusses price increases. And what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 months is an escalation in material cost of about 40%. I think most of that's due to supply and demand. Most profoundly, you will see building lumber costs have gone up significantly, and a large part of this project is lumber. So what's happened is once these bids were opened and the contractors factored in the 40% material inflation cost, we ended up receiving 2 bids, and they were both in excess of $100,000. Now, I've included for your information the 2 bids, one from PDC Construction in Bainbridge at $174,200 in 90 calendar days. And I've also included the low bid of Tip Top Construction in Thomasville for $139,375. Again, comparing this to the architect's estimate of $80,000. In discussing this with our city attorney, in reviewing the Georgia Public Works law, I believe that the council would not be in a position to award this contract tonight because both bids exceeded 100,000, and we didn't follow the Georgia Public Works procedure or procurement law because we never anticipated this project to be over $100,000. So the requested action by staff, viewing both architect's estimate and the contracts, both bids exceeding by 75%, I'm recommending that the council reject both bids. I think the only way we could award these bids is to rebid this and advertise it, go through a 30-day bid process, put it on the state procurement registry. My concern is that pushes this project back over 5 weeks delay. The second thing is that in reviewing with the low bidder can lower the price about $39,000, but the things that we would have to sacrifice would be the design features that resemble the splash park. We would lose the masonry seating, the built-in seating that would be very functional. We also would we would lose the roof ceiling panels and replace them with plywood, which really won't last as long. So I believe that there's too much to sacrifice to trim the cost, number one. Number two, I really believe we would have to go back and rebid it. So those two things lead me to recommend that the council reject both bids. However, instead of rebidding this, I would like to see the council approve staff to purchase the materials directly, to hire local subcontractors to complete the pavilion, and the pavilion would be done under the supervision of the planning administrator. So we're basically building this this proposal is building this pavilion in-house using city forces, subcontracting it. We would act as the general contractor.
All right. Thank you, Steve. So at this time, and Councilman Morgan, I'll go ahead and pick it up here. Is there a motion? Well, first, are there any questions for Steve?
I have one question. Does he have,
Yes, sir.
does he have an estimate on the cost of in-house?
Well, I think the fair market value, the architect's estimate of 80,000 is a fair value for the project. And I do believe that we can meet that project primarily because the general contractor's overhead and profit, we will realize that profit doing it ourselves. The other thing is we'll pick up about 8% sales tax on buying materials directly for ourselves. And then there's about $10,000 built into the project up front that we could do ourselves. So I believe that there's enough savings, us doing it ourselves, to hit the $80,000 estimate.
Well, that was basically what I was asking. What about what you think we can do it for?
I believe we can do it for $80,000, and we certainly would not put any more money in than it cost. We will buy the materials and we will do that. We will procure that competitively. So it'll be whatever the materials are. And then we would also use local subcontractors and award the work to them. And I believe we will realize the savings and retain the value. I believe it's $80,000, and that's going to be our project budget.
This is Councilman Morgan. It just seems like we're in this place now of delays because we have assumed this entire process on this project. So I don't think that I feel comfortable moving forward with anything until we get some true numbers on what this project is going to cost. And the only question I did have moving forward, I think you already answered it, Steve, is how long now, what does this look like on our project timeline with the construction of this?
Right. With the council with the council rejecting the bids and authorizing the staff to move forward as presented, we can start tomorrow with the project.
And what does that look like starting tomorrow with the project?
Well, 60 to 90 days we should be completed. And I believe I had outlined May the 31st completion date, and that would be my deadline to have it completed no later than May 31st.
Okay. Those are my comments.
Okay. All right, Steve. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I concur with Councilman Morgan. However, Steve, I do have a question as far as the original plan and concept as to be as in comparison as the splash park design.
Yes.
We're saying that we have the capability of making the same design and layout that we originally start with doing this through our own city employee or in-house.
Yes, that is correct. The plans were prepared to be consistent with the splash park. And so we would retain those architectural features. So when you visit the picnic pavilion at the splash park, or when you visit the picnic pavilion at Tombs, it's the same design, it's the same quality, it's the same materials, and you can tell that it was designed by the same designer.
Thank you. That's all I have, and I would ask that I think that we should go forward if that's the case. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and what I'll do, council, I'll put it out here for a motion to approve as submitted. And once we get, if there's more discussion or questions, we can go ahead and get to that at that particular time. But for right now, is there a motion?
Councilman Paula, I move that a motion to approve the in-house to start as soon as possible on this pavilion, that we in-house it. That I move for a motion for that.
And I think it would be helpful to include in that motion that you also make the motion to reject both bids.
Okay. Councilman Pollard, move the motion to reject both bids that was presented to us tonight, and that we in-house the construction of the pavilion through in-house labor.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. It's Councilman Morgan.
Okay, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? So council, I'll just add, and I agree with Steve, that delaying this project, from my perspective, is just not a good thing. We have the capability of building the pavilion in-house under our supervision. And I think in terms of what we expressed to the public last year, and I think this is to Councilman Morgan's point, that hopefully we can tighten up, if you will, what needs to be done to make sure that when we are budgeting for these types of projects, that we're doing it in a way to where we get pretty close to where we need to be. But beyond that, I think moving forward with this project and actually giving the people the pavilion that we said we were going to give them last year, and then working internally on fixing the processes to make sure that numbers that we're presenting to the public are actually spot on, I think is the way to go. Steve, on the local contracting side of it, which I think is a wonderful idea. And this may be, in a lot of ways, a blessing in disguise, because we'll have an opportunity, if I'm hearing you correctly, to get some of our local contractors involved with this. Can you touch real briefly on what that will look like, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, our goal is to use local labor to build this. For example, we will reach out to the concrete finishers in Mitchell County and around Mitchell County, the brick masons, the block masons, the roofers, and the framers. So all trades are available locally. We'll be purchasing the materials ourselves, but I would say about half of this project would benefit local tradesmen, as opposed to hiring a general contractor from outside of our community.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions? And Steve, are there any requirements for those contractors in order to do business with us?
The only requirement would be for the trades that are state licensed or that require certificates. And I believe the only one that applies to is roofing. So everybody else could do it with a local business administrative license. So nothing extraordinary. Everyone really should be able to participate in this process. And I think, getting the word out that there are opportunities to work on a local picnic pavilion would be helpful to spread the word.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So at this time, council, we have a motion and a second. And the motion, again, as a reminder that we are the motion is to approve, to reject the two bids originally for this pavilion, and to accept the city manager's recommendation to build this pavilion in-house. Again, we have a motion that's already been seconded. And at this time, we'll go ahead and vote. Councilman Campbell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham.
Yes.
Councilman Morgan.
Yes.
Councilman Twitty.
Yes.
Councilman Pollard.
Yes.
And Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, council. Motion carries. All right. Councilman Morgan.
Yes, sir. Item D, the council reviewed the 2021 project schedule in detail at their February 1st committee meeting. The project schedule outlines each project, its funding source, completion date, and funding level. Some of the projects scheduled for completion in 2021 include a splash park, Coons Park renovations, installation of public Wi-Fi, paving projects, sidewalk projects, gateway signage, 21st century policing training, wastewater treatment renovations, lift station upgrades, and construction of 2 aircraft hangars. The Public Works Committee recommends approval of the 2021 project schedule. And this is in the form of a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion that's been probably second. Is there any discussion? Steve, just real quick to Councilman Morgan's earlier point, with some of these projects that are on this list as relates to some of these items are budgeted and some are not. That's on the list. Are we currently working on mechanisms, if you will, to make sure that we're closer to what the numbers that we're budgeted for, and we have at least one item that is unbudgeted. That's a pretty good dollar amount. So, are we looking at that right now in terms of making sure that we're on track?
Yes, we are. The architect that I'm working with, for example, on the Boys and Girls Club building, understands what our budget is. And when we bring the concept back to the council, you will see that we're working toward the $300,000 budget.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Thank you. All right. Is there any other discussion? Councilor Twain, look like you're muted.
There we go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are we planning on advertising this or publishing this list so the community can see what's going on, what we hope to accomplish this year?
That is a great point, Councilman Twitty. I don't think there's anything that stops us from doing that. Any thoughts on that, Steve or council, anybody?
No, I believe we will be publishing this so that it's a checklist of projects, and it'll be a communication piece for the public to keep track of what's happening. What the council sees on a weekly basis is an update on these projects while they're in progress. What the community will see is this the status on this project list changing as projects are completed.
Well, certainly we can have the newspaper do a story on this. They need stories, so we could give them this information to run a story and explain what we're doing.
Yep, I think that's a great idea. It's a
great
good
idea.
communication piece.
Great idea. Great idea. Appreciate that, Councilman Twitty. All right.
This is Councilman Campbell.
Yes, sir.
On the Wi-Fi, I think we need to get that out pretty soon on the locations that let everybody be aware of what we're doing and what the locations are, because I think that's going to be widely used by the city. And but on the Wi-Fi, we need to get it out as soon as we can, what we're doing.
I agree. And Steve, I thought I read in one of your weekly reports that the public Wi-Fi had already started. Is that right? Or you can ask.
It has started. And in fact, we're working on the Boys and Girls Club and the Depot rollout of public Wi-Fi now, and Toombs Park will follow in as soon as the building is complete.
Okay. What is the schedule? I want to say the end of March is what I remember. Is that still on track?
It is. March 31st is the completion date for the first two, and May 31st is the completion date for the final one. And I believe we're well ahead of schedule.
Okay. So the first two is Depot and Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Appreciate that, Councilman Campbell. Thank you.
Councilman Pollard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That we are talking about the projects in the Wi-Fi. I did have a citizen did ask about how far do the Wi-Fi will stretch here at Toombs Park. Would it go as far as to over on the north side project homes? Would it stretch that far? What is the range of the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, typically speaking, it's the length of a football field.
So it's 100 yards out.
Yep, about 300 feet radially from the center of the equipment. But, tree foliage, building rooftops, structures do get in the way. But I believe the design is so that the whole park will be covered. The depot area will be covered, and the Boys and Girls Club, that whole field area will be covered as well.
Okay. And my last thing is, I'm not sure. I received a phone call from the contractor that is doing our basketball court renovation. Who have the key to the gate that is out there with us now owning that park? Who holds those keys?
Well, I don't know who all has keys, but I know we have a key.
Okay. Because I received I received Sunday, I received a phone call from the contractor. Well, a citizen called for the contractor, and I spoke with the contractor as well. And I couldn't say who had the key. I told him I thought they had the key because I knew I rode out once and they was out there. But nevertheless, he got in. I gave him permission go ahead and get in. He said he know how to he can get in there. So I just told him go right ahead on. You have my permission to go on in there whatever way you can, because I'm not sure who has the key at this time.
Yeah, if it becomes an issue, a security and access issue, we can certainly change out the locks. Right now, I suspect that the housing authority has a key. I know our public works folks has a key. But again, if that gets out of hand, we have a 50-year agreement on use of the park, and I'm sure us changing those locks out wouldn't void or violate that agreement.
Okay. And I would urge any council member that have not been out to see the renovation. It's looking real good, and I'm loving it. And I think the citizen will definitely appreciate it. They look like they have finishing some products. The last finishing product, they just got to strike the lines on it now, but it's really looking great out there.
Great.
Indeed. Thank you, Councilman. That's pretty good update. And thank you for your vigilance and availability this weekend. Thank you.
Definitely.
All right. So again, Council, we have, is there any more discussion? Okay. And Council, we have a motion and a second. And again, the motion is to approve the 2021 project list and schedule. So at this time, we'll go ahead and take the vote. Councilman Campbell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham.
Yes.
Councilman Morgan.
Yes.
Councilman Twitty.
Yes.
Councilman Pollard.
Yes.
Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Council. All right, Councilman Morgan.
Yes, sir. We are on item E. I need to scroll back up to the top. Give me 2 seconds here. All right. The Public Works Committee performed an on-site inspection of the city's land application operation, assist in providing sanitary sewer services for residential and commercial customers. Of the 3 holding ponds, 1 is currently empty due to a ruptured liner that requires repair. The city's consultant and engineer assessed the situation and recommended 2 courses of action. The first, a geophysical investigation and groundwater testing at the land application site. City Manager Sykes executed a professional services agreement with TTL of Valdosta, Georgia, in the amount of $24,000 for the geophysical investigation and $17,000 for the groundwater testing. The investigation and testing is in progress, and he requests the council's consideration to ratify his decision for execution of the agreement because time was of the essence. The Public Works Committee recommends ratification of the city manager's execution of the professional services agreement with TTL of Valdosta in the total amount of $41,000 for a geophysical investigation and groundwater testing at the land application operation. This is in the form of a motion.
I'll second Councilman Campbell.
All right, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, at this time we'll vote. Councilman Campbell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Willingham.
Yes.
Councilman Morgan.
Yes.
Councilman Twitty.
Yes.
Councilman Pollard.
Yes.
Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, Council. And at this time, thank you, Councilman Morgan. And at this time, we'll go ahead and get to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Sure. In the packet, there's a city manager's report. I'll be brief because of the length of the meeting, but what you'll see is an unfit building report. And in the report are 10 properties, unfit building properties that are currently or have been completed. You'll see those 10 properties are listed. Demolition or renovation is completed on 3 of the properties, and the other properties are in process. Again, for the public, what happens whenever there is a structure that either needs to be renovated or demolished because of its condition, there's a procedure adopted by council that staff goes through, and that involves the property owner is contacted. We meet with the property owner to see what their plans are to address the deficiencies on the building, which could include demolition. We then work with them, and there's a timeline that we mutually agree on. And the hope is that within the time period, the building's either brought up to code, minimum standards, or demolished. And that's what's happening now. The council has set a goal of 10 structures for the calendar year. We have 10 projects underway, but we're ready to add another 5 residential and 5 commercial properties to bring the list to a total of 20 properties that we're working on. And the intention is that you get these updated reports on a regular basis so that you can see what progress is being made for addressing these properties. Any questions about the building report that's included in your packet? Again, we will continue to update you, and the planning administrator is the lead staff member that is moving that project forward. The second thing that I've included in my packet this is a list of cemetery spaces that have been sold since the last report. I believe we last reported on November the 30th. And so this is a list of the spaces sold in Oakview Cemetery between November 30 and January the 11th. I also have included a COVID-19 report. And as you will see on the last page of the report, the most recent spike got up to about 10 new cases a day. But thankfully, in the last 5 days, those numbers have normalized back down to about 4 per day. And our hope is that we continue to see that 4 per day come back down to 0. You are getting an updated weekly report on COVID-19, and I hope that's helpful. But if you have any suggestions or recommendations for additional information, please let me know, and I'll be sure to include it in the report. With that, that's the end of my report. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have about it.
Steve, this is Councilman Twitty. Concerning the spray field, do you have any updates? I know they have already started working out there. Do you have any updates for us?
No, I do not have any updates. And as soon as I have initial estimates or reports, I will be glad to share those with you by email, and then we'll talk about it in more detail at the next committee meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Pollard, Steve, concerning COVID and hazard pay, we issue hazard pay for what months?
Well, we had just issued for the month of December, and then the January was also at a hazard level. So we've also will be haven't yet, but will be issuing hazard pay for the month of January.
Okay, thank you. And can I get an email of those departments that was issued for hazard?
Yeah, actually, all departments.
All departments received it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for Steve? All right. Well, council, I will be brief. Just bear with me for a moment. As I'll point out shortly, I believe we're on a steady track toward tomorrow. But as I speak to you tonight, families are still dealing with the impact of COVID-19. And I hope that you'll join me in continuing to pray for them. As we do, I believe that we must remain committed to defeating this virus by doing everything that we can, from wearing masks, practicing social distancing, and following all CDC and DPH guidelines. Challenges and obstacles remain, but I'm confident that we will prevail. In Camilla, we are resilient. Our city council, staff, citizens have worked together to keep our economy flowing throughout this health crisis. We've made additional investments in our youth. We're currently working on plans to safely reengage our seniors, ensuring they have the resources they need as we move forward. We've created an economic environment that has attracted new housing developers, something we've needed for years, and we've seen an increase in new businesses. In other words, the state of our city is sound, but we've got much more work to do. As you know, here in Southwest Georgia, agriculture is our largest industry. We must continue to develop and encourage innovative ways to support our agriculture producers. They are indeed the backbone of our economy. And lastly, Council, in the spirit of Black History Month, the journey to prosperity, equity, and justice is ongoing. The terrain is inherently tough, but we're tougher. I sincerely believe that if we continue to work together and expand the humanity that is in all of us, we will make today and tomorrow a better place for our children. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless our beautiful city. Thank you. Council, if there is no other business for the city tonight, is there a motion to adjourn?
Call it.
All right, we have a motion, a second. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, Council, and good night to the citizens of Camilla. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Flynn.